Chat. Like we've gone live. Okay. The chat. Chat. All appear. No. Kick did not appear. This is really, really slow. All right. Well, as long as it's working. Oh, how do I get my music? Games. Music. Any second. Any second. Really loud background. All right. Well, I think that's everything set up. Turn up the music. Okay. Great. So I'm going to go through a couple of videos today. The first thing I wanted to look at was the ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran, because I think there's been some developments there. I haven't looked into that. Iran ceasefire. Fighting. And says Strait of Hormuz completely open. Okay, this is what, like, if the Strait of Hormuz is open again, that's going to be a big. That's a big change.
We just want to bring you more on our breaking news. Iran's foreign minister.
A 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is currently in effect. The truce pauses fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, and if this holds, it could set the
fighting between Israel and Hezbollah has been paused. Like that's the other side of the conflict. Try a different one. Has the fighting between Israel and Lebanon, or the group Hezbollah in Lebanon, been paused for the ceasefire? Here's the current situation on the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Mid-April 2026. A temporary ceasefire has begun. That is good news. Israel and Lebanon agreed to a U.S.-brokered 10-day ceasefire that began on 16-17 of April. The deal is aimed at pausing hostilities, easing violence, and creating space for direct negotiation towards a long-term settlement. This is good. Like this means we might actually be getting to a peace deal, which is I mean, as long as the terms of the peace deal are good, like this is the best way out of it. Key nuance to understand: Hezbollah was not a formal signature to the ceasefire agreement. The deal is officially between Israel and the Lebanese government, not Israel and Hezbollah, the militia. But Hezbollah itself didn't sign it. Because Hezbollah wasn't part of the negotiations, it did not fully endorse the truce and has signaled it will monitor developments and potentially respond if it views terms as violated. Israel's military retains the right to self-defense during the truce, and Israeli forces remain positioned inside a buffer zone in southern Lebanon. I mean, current reality on the ground. That's what I want to know. Early reports suggest a 10-day ceasefire is largely being observed so far, allowing some civilians to start returning home. I mean, it's a little early to return to your home, I think. But that's a good sign. Bottom line, yes, there is a temporary pause in the fighting under the brokered 10-day ceasefire. Lebanon. It also affects clashes with Hezbollah, but Hezbollah itself hasn't formally signed on to it. Israel still retains defensive rights. The agreement durability is. I mean, it's another de-escalation step for a war that's been escalating. Had the peace between the U.S. ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran. Now there's at least a partial ceasefire between Israel and Israel and Lebanon. This is another de-escalatory step. May be able to see peace here, hopefully soon.
Abbas.
On this one.
The stage for a peace deal between the U.S. and Iran. President Trump celebrated the deal on social media, writing, quote, "May have been a historic day for Lebanon. Good things are happening," end quote. And Mr. Trump is also voicing optimism about the war in Iran. Last night in Las Vegas, he said it should be ending pretty soon. Those are his words.
I mean, to be fair, he's been saying it'll end soon since it began. A lot of what Trump says is posturing. You have to look at the actions, and the actions are de-escalatory. He is trying to push for. Seems like Iran also trying to push for a peace. I don't see why we can't get one. They're negotiating on terms. He's got the blockade to keep pressure on for the negotiations. And hopefully we can have a peace deal soon.
He also doubled down on his rationale for starting the operation.
We had to do a little journey down to Iran, and I didn't want to do that, but we had to because we can't let them have a nuclear weapon.
CBS News has learned U.S. intelligence found signs China was considering giving Iran advanced radar systems. That technology would significantly enhance Tehran's ability to detect and track incoming threats.
I mean, if you gave them advanced radar systems, they would be blown up. Radar fundamentally has to be above ground like this. Easy target. The only thing the U.S. is having trouble with are stockpiles of weapons stored under the ground. Can't find them. It's hard to blow them up. Even if you gave them radar, it's like the problem is. Oh, I got a message. Oh, thank you. The problem is if China was to give them something anti-air missiles, that is what would cause an issue, because then you could see more jets going down. That would ratchet up the pressure on the U.S. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they've begun the de-escalatory steps, and it's going to spiral, and should hopefully get a peace.
It's unclear if China moved forward with that transfer. And now Reuters is reporting China is actually ramping up its diplomatic efforts to end the Iran war. Chinese President Xi Jinping is set to meet with President Trump next month. Of course, as usual, we've got team coverage on all these big headlines for you this morning.
Well, I mean, China's worried about their oil. They're one of the largest like renewable energy, big in the solar and wind, even and nuclear. But even then, there's a certain amount of oil that is still necessary, no matter what. They need to get it from somewhere.
Morning. Anna Coren is here to break down China's role in the conflict. But let's begin with CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi joining us from our DC bureau. Good morning, Olivia. Always great to see you. So are we any closer to a deal between the U.S. and Iran? And explain how the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon may factor into that.
Well, good morning, Errol. It's good to see you. Actually, the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon is crucial to really all of this. We're told that Iran and the U.S. are inching closer to a deal, so you have that happening on this side. But they found it prudent that there must be a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon in order for there to be any sort of deal between the U.S. and Iran. And just to show you how important that ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon needed to be, President Trump was instrumental in getting that across the board. He had several conversations yesterday with Israeli Prime Minister.
I mean, like, Benjamin Netanyahu has been absolutely destroying any chance at peace for a while. Wasn't Israel like bombing the people the U.S. was talking to about trying to get a ceasefire? Benjamin Netanyahu has been sabotaging President Trump since this war began. And I'm not quite sure, like, why that's just been allowed to happen. Let me check that. Just to make sure. I heard that the Israelis have bombed the individuals who were negotiating a ceasefire on part of Iran. Is this correct? When did this happen? Might have to change that a little bit. Part of Iran. With the US. See if I can get a little. Here's the verified situation based on reputable news reporting with sources. Has original bomb people negotiating a U.S.-Iran ceasefire? No. Credible mainstream news sources report that Israel has bombed Iranian or U.S.-Iran ceasefire negotiators. There is no confirmed reputable reporting that Israel targeted or killed Iranian officials during current U.S.-Iran ceasefire. During the current. What did happen in related strike? Israel and U.S. forces carried out airstrike against Iranian military targets early in the conflict, including facilities and possible commanders as part of a broader war. One widely cited incident on April 6, 2016 involved Israel killing an IRGC intelligence chief in Tehran during a wider conflict. But those were combat strikes, not attacks on ceasefire. Okay. Not attacks on ceasefire negotiators. What about ceasefire talks? The U.S. and Iran negotiations. Establish a ceasefire framework. These talks have been tedious and evolving with term. Where the confusion might come from, there are unverified and informal internet claims circulating on social media saying that Israel or the U.S. killed Iranian negotiators, but these are not supported by any major news outlet or authoritative sources. Such claims are often found. Where did I hear this then? Summary confirmed Israel. Million target early. That's an Iran diplomatic ceasefire talk. It's being complicated and ongoing. There is no verified report that bomb negotiators have. Maybe I just fell for the unfounded internet claims. I thought I heard it from a reputable source. I have asked it wrong? I heard that the Israelis bombed the shooting. Maybe this is a past thing. Either way, doesn't look like it's happening this time. Because I know the thing that was really holding up this deal has been Hezbollah and Israel still at conflict. And now that seems to have at least temporarily come to a stop. Well, I'm hopeful for peace. Hey, Gene.
Conversations yesterday with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, while also talking with the leader of Lebanon to try to get the two of them closer to any sort of deal. It resulted in the president saying there's now a 10-day ceasefire between the two sides. Now, because of that, there could be potential for better, more prudent, and goodwill-based negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, because that was crucial in getting all of this done. Now, as far as when a deal could happen, how it could come together, take a listen to President Trump yesterday before he left the White House going to Vegas, talking about the war in Iran and any potential deal.
When will the next in-person
Probably,
meeting take place?
maybe over the weekend.
If there's no deal, would you be willing to extend the ceasefire, or will the fighting resume, Mr. President?
I would say the fighting, if there's no deal, fighting resumes.
Fighting resumes, and that could happen in 4 days. That ceasefire is set to expire next Tuesday. Today is Friday. So over the weekend, the president said there could be conversations that they would potentially happen this weekend. But Errol, as of right now, we have not seen any travel or travel plans from the vice president, who we're told would be the key negotiator in the second round of negotiations that could happen this weekend.
Yeah, I know we'll keep a close eye on the VP's movements. Olivia, thank you.
Watchbird.
Sarachi has.
So it sounds like you're moving closer to peace deal. Great.
Has just announced that, in line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of the ceasefire. He has just tweeted this only a few minutes ago. We're going to go to our chief US correspondent, Alan Fisher, now. He joins us from Washington, D.C., from the White House. Alan, this is a significant moment, isn't it? Especially coming not long after Donald Trump said he was optimistic that talks could potentially resume, Alan.
Yeah, I mean, as we've said in the last couple of days, these things tend to be staged. It's you do this, then we do that. If this happens, then that happens. And that could well be what we're seeing, a sequencing of things moving towards more significant talks with Iran. One of Iran's demands was, of course, that there was a ceasefire.
Do we have ships going through yet? Because I remember, yeah, this is it. MC says Strait of Hormuz completely open. I guess
Fire
that's what it's gonna
in
get to.
Lebanon. The United States may well have said, and we've nothing to back this up, but certainly if you read the tea leaves, it suggests, look, if we get the ceasefire in Lebanon, then we open up the Strait of Hormuz. The big question mark over all of this, of course, is what America does next, because they have the blockade of Iranian ports. They've said that nothing is coming in or coming out. They've interdicted a number of vessels that have already made that journey. They have stopped a couple of oil tankers that were coming out of Iran in the last 24 hours. So what do they do next? Is this part of the sequencing, or does that stay in place because they believe that's an important pressure point for Iran and also for those who support Iran or do business with Iran?
I mean, I imagine they'll leave it in place until this next round of negotiations.
Likes of China, to get them to a negotiating table and then to deliver on a peace deal. Now, I don't think there's any issue with getting Iran to the negotiating table. It's what's actually agreed when they get there and whether or not they are actually open to some of the US demands. But clearly, the US has been open to what Iran has been saying, because they have said, look, we want a ceasefire in Lebanon as part of this. that has been delivered by and large. But then the next step obviously was you open up the Strait of Hormuz. We might be reading too much into this, but it tends to be in these things sequenced events, and certainly that's the pattern that we're seeing here.
Okay, Alan, obviously, like you say, a sequence of events. We know that Islamabad in Pakistan, they've been gearing up for a second round of potential talks. A lot goes on behind the
But I really want to know. Are oil tankers freely passing through the Strait of Hormuz? This is the important thing. No, oil tankers are not freely passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the situation is partially reopened, but still heavily restricted and fragile. What's officially being said, Iran says the Strait of Hormuz is open to commercial shipping during the current ceasefire. Ships are allowed through, but only under strict conditions like using designated routes, coordinating with Iranian authorities. So there's still restrictions on passage that have not been there. Traffic is far below normal levels. Only a handful of ships have been transiting daily compared to 100 plus before the conflict. Strait is not open yet. That is the most important part of the ceasefire. That is not there. Okay. Well, I think I've touched on that one. I want to watch a couple videos. Looking at the news. I'm gonna cut that. I am gonna quickly go through. Just have a look at what the big story. Can you give me the news for the past 2 days? Let's see what it finds. It's going through everything. Great. And so the whole reopening, that's not exactly it just keeps pairing Strait of Hormuz, Iran ceasefire. The ceasefire in Lebanon, if that can hold, then I think we could pretty quickly transition to a that's if it holds. Time. Okay, so one of the things I want to do, I've listened out a bunch of all the YouTube channels that make content that would be good to read. I pretty quickly just assigned it like a rank and how much I like that content. And so I'm gonna go through this stuff. Basically on this channel, I'm gonna continue to go through some of this stuff. Put a better rank. Watch some of his stuff. Good. Bad. I was enjoying a couple of his. These ones are not. Okay. Let's see what we got. Alright, Canada. I'm gonna take this off for this. Listen to anything but a little bit of music. Heavy rains and snow triggers flood warnings and drought. So I live in Alberta, and like, what was it? 2 days ago, we got the biggest snowfall of the like I don't know how much fell, but it was like a foot and a half. Just a ridiculous amount. Like it's warm. It's like 6 to 10 out there now, so it's melting. But it was crazy just how much precipitation fell. It's happening all across Canada. There's flood warnings in Ontario and Quebec. I remember Calgary was on the news about having a lot of snow too. Right, with one town declaring a state of emergency while southern Alberta faces up to 40 centimeters of snow, leading to dangerous driving conditions and chaotic commute. Calgary, yeah, that's. All right. Canadian dollar hits 1 month high on Hormuz reopening. Canadian dollar strengthened to a 1 month high after Iran declared the Strait of Hormuz open to commercial vessels during the ceasefire period. It underscores Canada's vulnerability to global energy market shifts. Prime Minister Carney invites global investors to Toronto summit. Prime Minister Mark Carney announced plan to host 100 of the world's largest investors at the September summit in Toronto to promote Canada as a reliable investment. Good. I mean, investment is how you get stuff built. Move seeks to attract foreign capital and economic growth. Global uncertainty. I want to know what comes out of that. Will be for after the summit. All right. Wall Street hit record high as oil prices plunge. Ooh, that's right. I saw that. Look at that drop. That up. Like we're still way above where we were, but markets have reacted favorably to the ceasefire. That is good. Oil prices have dropped. But at the same time, we're still not getting the same flow of oil through that strait. Gotta come back. Congress approves short-term renewal of FISA surveillance. What is this? The House and Senate rushed through a short-term extension of the controversial Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Program till April 30th, following overnight debate and Republican objections to longer terms. It preserves critical national security intelligence capacity while deferring broader reform. Trump rule change halts solar grants farmer. The administration effectively paused grants under program, forcing some farmers who had planned commercial solar projects to consider amid new construction deadlines for tax credits. It affects renewable energy adoption and financial viability for U.S. agricultural operations. Like, my idea, from my understanding, on a small scale, solar is actually doing really well. Setting up a farm, solar energy, has been quite effective. But it appears that has also been funded by grants. Okay. So Trump is pulling back some of the. I wonder how viable it'll be now that the grants aren't there. Okay. Quick look. Global, international stuff. Iran declares Strait of Hormuz open for commercial shipping. Iran announced the Strait of Hormuz is open to commercial vessels. The remainder of the ceasefire, though the U.S. maintains its blockade of ships. Checkpoint carries about 1/5 of global oil trade. Market volatility. Talked about that one. Over a dozen countries offer role in Hormuz security mission. More than a dozen nations have volunteered for their mission to secure the Strait of Current. Yeah, everyone's basically pushing to get the strait back open. Get this global oil. U.S. plans leisurely recovery of uranium from Iran. President Trump stated the U.S. will recover uranium from Iran, measured pace as part of ongoing discussions. The approach could help manage nuclear without immediate escalation. Sounds good. Upcoming important events. Meta targets May 20th for initial layoff wave. Ooh. Meta announced its first round of layoffs will begin May 20th. Further cuts scheduled for later 2020. Month away. Wonder how many people they're getting rid of. A lot of these tech companies, one, have overhired, and two, these are the companies that are seeing a large decrease because of AI. They just are. AI is making people be able to do the work of two people rather than one. And if one person can do the work of two people, you don't need two people. So you got to get rid of one. That's what we're seeing, because the business isn't growing with the increase in productivity. It's staying the same size, and the productivity is that is what we're seeing. U.S.-Iran peace talks possibly resume this weekend. I hope they do. Watch a video on that. Okay, that was also underreported but important stories. Iran negotiators receive Pakistan escorts from peace talks. Citing fears of a possible Israeli attack. I mean, they're worried about it. Earlier I was talking about like Israel targeting or deliberately hampering the peace negotiation. And it seems like there's certainly a fear there. Why it matters, it reveals persistent security tensions, reliance on third-party logistics, and sensitive. USDA breaks ground on sterile fly facility in Texas. USDA and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers sterile fly production plant in Edinburgh, Texas, to combat the world pest. The facility will expand domestic capacity to provide livestock, wildlife, and public health from agricultural threat. What is this? The sterile fly production plant. What the heck is the world? Scare press control. Why not move and look at that? Let's read the last one though. Iran negotiators escorted by Pakistan amid Israel. Okay, that was the same as above. Key trend summary. Middle East ceasefire developments and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz are driving market optimism and energy price relief, while North America grapples with domestic weather disruptions, policy adjustments in agriculture, tech, and surveillance that signal long-term economic shifts. I've got out search time. If I reuse that again, using that project. Here we go. What to know.
New World screwworm kind of gets its name actually because these
Looks like a
are
screw,
little
right?
parasites, and when they actually land on an open wound, they're going to screw down into the wound. Kind of that's how they burrow in and actually consume tissue. In terms of how infection actually happens, after mating,
They don't look. So these are more like a maggot size thing. You can see a fingernail there. So these are actually quite large. Despite the fact it looked like a single cell, that's not it. Like, they are significant size.
how infection actually happens, after mating, a female fly is going to find a living host. They're going to land on a wound, and then in that moment, they're going to lay somewhere in the vicinity of 200 to 300 eggs. About a day later, those eggs are going to hatch, and then that's when you actually get this kind of screwworm active infection. They're going to start again burrowing down into the wound. They're going to kind of use that screwing motion, feeding on the tissue, and that's when you kind of start to see this like very large wound. So your wound will actually expand, and that's actually kind of your typical signs of a screwworm infection. I'd also say it's going to be incredibly painful for patients. In the United States in particular, there is very low risk of infection right now. If you are planning to travel to places
That's good, because what she's describing sounds terrifying.
like Mexico or other places where there is an active infection, an active New World screwworm infection, bearing in mind the current infection that we have in the US was actually acquired while the patient was traveling, then you would want to take those steps, making sure again you have open wounds covered, long
That's just always good. Good advice.
sleeves. You're not, around surrounding yourself with animals, cattle, horses, etc. And so that would really minimize your infection risk. And realistically, if you're not doing any of those things, again, there should be a very, very small risk to human infection. If the parasite does make it here, that we can use to then control or eliminate the presence of it, just like we did in 1966. And so the way that was actually done was through breeding and dispersing sterilized male flies that actually will mate with the wild female fly. Effectively, that just means that when the female screwworm fly goes on to kind of lay its 200 to 300 eggs again, those eggs they don't hatch. And so that effectively stops the life cycle. So I don't think that there's anything that we can do necessarily to stop it. It would be nice if, like in Australia, we were a giant island nation and there was large amounts of water that they had to cross. But that's just not going to be possible in this situation. We have a shared border, and so there's not really any way to prevent passage, if you will. But that's just not
Interesting. I didn't know anything about this. Two screw fly. So yeah, careful of open wounds, I guess. It doesn't sound like it's a large issue in the US at this time. What did they say, like one case of it? But like, sounds horrible. I see why it's getting some media attention. All right, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna watch a couple videos I have lined up. In the end, what I'm basically gonna try and do is create a list of good YouTube channels to reacts to. This one, it's like neutral take on separatism in Canada. Okay, I wanted to hear.
Canada. Alberta would be better off if we separated from the rest of Canada.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think the percent of people that want separation is still really, really low. But from my understanding, it is a growing.
Quebec independence is going to be a great opportunity. They have to view the project as an opportunity to create a new country together.
In 1995, a referendum in Quebec was decided with 50 to 49% against declaring independence.
Ooh. Let me see that. 50.6 to 59.4. 92% participation. Whoa. Like, I don't know if the referendum itself allows you to, like, yourself from Canada. I think there's other hurdles you've got to cross, more referendum. But that is close. I feel for a large change like this, like we saw this in the UK, right? Brexit, themselves from the European Union by a slim majority. I think you need a super majority if you want to create this kind of change. This is drastic. Check. The UK Brexit vote. What was the percentage to leave and the percentage to stay? And what percentage of people voted? Ooh, I got expert mode on. It's going to take a while. That stupid fly anymore. I would like to forget about that. This one. 0.6 to 50. Okay, here we go. In 2016, UK EU membership referendum, commonly known as the Brexit vote, leave the European Union 51.9, Maine 48.1. So 2% was the difference. Percent more wanted to leave. How many people? Turned out only 72.2% registered vote. Quebec had a much larger turnout, and it's much closer. Much closer.
%49 against declaring independence. Recent polls show that about a third of their population today would still vote to leave, and that figure is now even higher in Alberta.
It's been an abusive relationship for so long, really. I think most of us just want out.
I feel that Alberta have everything to be a country.
Support for independence has never been this high, and recently, the news broke that separatists in Alberta met with officials from the Trump administration to discuss a $500 billion line of credit should the province separate. They are now collecting signatures to trigger a referendum later this year, while in Quebec, elections are coming up. The ruling party won the previous elections with 45% of the vote, but their popularity has since declined. Today, only 15% would vote for them, while the Parti Québécois has become the most popular party. Their main campaign promise is to hold another referendum on independence should they be elected. But while the issues that fuel these movements are very real, would declaring independence solve anything? Or is separatism a form of political currency? This is whether Canada is actually breaking up with hindsight.
And I think there is
I think there's a fear, but I don't think that they're breaking up at all, honestly.
fear that the future of the country is at risk. I think it leaves us needing to consider a new constitutional conference.
If Alberta would declare independence, they would take most of Canada's oil and they would be landlocked between Canada and the United States. They would still not have access to the Pacific or the Atlantic, and they would have to renegotiate trade deals and potentially face tariffs. If Quebec would leave, the Atlantic provinces would be cut off from the rest of Canada, and they would take about a quarter of Canada's population. In this video, I'll explain briefly the structural and long-term trends behind these four opposing camps, those that are opposing and supporting independence in Alberta and in Quebec. And especially in the case of Alberta, the roots of these tensions can be traced back all the way to the founding of Canada. In 1867, the Federation of Canada began with 4 original provinces, and they agreed that each would maintain control over its resources. Prince Edward Island and British Columbia later joined, and Manitoba was the first province to be carved out.
Look at the tiny Manitoba there. that's where it started.
Of this enormous area in between. The region was sparsely inhabited by indigenous groups and early settlers, and the key to settling the West was to build infrastructure. Ottawa created Alberta and Saskatchewan, but they were not given the same control over its resources. The federal government wanted to coordinate national development and to manage immigration, but the people in these provinces felt that they were not treated as an equal. And after years of pressure in 1930, they were finally given control, but this history still influences the debate today. By 1949, Canada had most of its current shape, but it was unclear what would happen if a province decided to leave.
Quebec is Canada's oldest city. It's the only large Canadian metropolis where French is still spoken almost exclusively.
Quebec in the 1960s was...
Yeah, like... It's wild, because I only speak English, no French at all. I think, like, what is it? 18% of the population can speak French. But there are areas where, like, you see a stop sign, and in many places you'll see the stop or arrêté or whatever it is in French. And then there are also places where you don't see the English of it anymore, and I'm like, what? I was out seeing my grandma somewhere in Nova Scotia. And there were places where there wasn't an English phrasing for it anymore. And French was by far the largest spoken language there. And so there are certainly communities where, inside Canada, where French is the dominant language. Even though as a country, I feel English is definitely our prominent language. I'm gonna make sure I get the numbers right. What percentage of Canadians speak French? And what percentage of Canadians speak only French? Because it's... Hi. I wonder, will it say hi back? Oh, I could probably have read those numbers. Oh, I missed. Turn expert. Fast response. Oh, it doesn't say hi back to me. Oh well. According to the 2021 census of populations from Statistics Canada, here are the figures. Percentage of Canadians who speak French. Much higher, 29.2. Percentage of Canadians who speak only French, 11 points. Where did I get my 17 number? 18. Both English and French. Okay, English only. 69% speak only English. Cool. More than a supermajority. French only, 11.2. Both English and French. 18%. Neither, 1.9. How do you speak neither English or French? You really need one of them to function in our society. I suppose these could be people that have like come over recently to Canada. Uh, 98.1% of Canadians can speak one of the two official languages. I wonder what that is in the US. In the US, what percentage of Americans speak English? What percentage speak Spanish? And what percentage speak neither? Because those are the two US languages, right? Like primarily English, but they also have like In high school, we had to learn, we had French class. We did a terrible job at teaching you French, but did have to attend to a degree. I think in America, the second language is Spanish. Try and teach you. Percentage who speak English at home, 78.3. So that's a good deal more Canadian. I guess, like, that doesn't, because you could put that 18 into English too. Probably about the same, actually. Percentage who speak Spanish at home, 13. So they actually have more Spanish speakers than we have, percentage-wise. They have more Spanish speakers than French speakers. Yeah, because that would be split between those. Okay. Break down language spoken at home. English, only English. Spanish, so English, 78.3. Spanish is about 13.6. Other languages, Chinese, Tagalog, Vietnamese, Arabic, approximately 8 to 9%. So, note on speak versus at home, these statistics are primary language spoken at home, not overall ability. Yeah, because you'll have people that can speak both, right? Vast majority of people who speak a non-English language at home also speak some English. Oh, it's only about 8.4 to 8.6% of the U.S. population, age 5 plus, speak English less than very well. Percentage who speak. So they actually have far more language diversity. You have 1.2% that can't speak English. They have US 8 to 9% that don't speak English or Spanish. The other languages are Chinese to me. Huh. I wonder why this is. Like, I know Canada had a really good immigration policy for a long time. The way the immigration system was done, just done well. Guessing one of the most important things is for you to speak one of the primary languages of the country to come home. I also know that Canadian French is not exactly the same thing as France French. I've heard about that. Like, the difference between Canadian English and like UK English, there's like subtle difference, but Canadian French and France French, quite significant differences. Yeah. I hear a lot about how the Canadian immigration system used to be really good. Does that mean that it's currently not very good? Let's see if we can compare the old system to the new system. Am I getting off target? Off topic? No, we're not. Still on topic. Close enough. Close enough. Perception that Canada's immigration system used to be really good often refers to its long-standing reputation. The world's most selective point-based system focused on economic immigrants with high human capital. This approach centers on express entry, similar tools, emphasizing permanent residency from the start, strong integration outcomes, broad public support. Integration as a net positive for economic growth and culturalism. What changed and why the shift in perception? Starting around 2015-2016 and accelerating post-pandemic, the system expanded dramatically in volume, shifted emphasis. Permanent resident targets rose sharply. Plans aiming for 500,000 annually by 2025-2026. Actual emissions hit records like 484,000 in 2024. Temporary residents surged even more, pushing the under Trudeau, like they significantly expanded the immigration system, which is causing currently a lot of friction. Do they still use the point-based system? Surge even more, pushing the non-permanent population 2 to 3% historically, 6 to 7. This includes heavy reliance on student permits, lower wage temporary stream. Population growth became almost entirely immigration driven. Still is. Like, the fertility rate of Canada is horrible, barely above places like Japan and South Korea. I mean, might even be below Japan. Been a while since I. Car facing house construction service. I mean, they expanded the immigration system and didn't expand anything, any of the services that serve the people around it. Serve the people. Housing, construction, infrastructure, and service capacity did not keep pace with how they expanded the system. This rapid scaling contributed to visible strains, a worsening housing affordability. Yeah. Current state. Federal government under the current administration, including shifts from Trudeau to Carney eras, responded with significant course corrections starting in 2024-2025. Permanent resident targets reduced 395,000, stabilized at 380 annually. For my understanding is that they created another category and they've moved some permanent residents to this other category so that they can report lower immigration numbers. So I don't think they've actually significantly reduced targets. Economic class still dominate. Yeah, with some refocus on in-Canada education, language, education, and Canadian experience. Temporary residents curtailed. This is one I. Caps on international students slashed. They've cut down temporary residents significantly. Targets for new temporary workers also cut sharply to reduce overall temporary population share towards 5%. Still up from what it was, but down from its peak. The goal per official plan: pause or slow population growth short term, projected marginal decline in improve housing affordability, lower unemployment pressure, and restore balance while still targeting long-term economic benefits. Is it not very good now? Okay, that's what I want to know. Depends on the metric. Strengths retained. The core economic selection framework point/human capital focus still stronger and more transparent than many countries. Recent cohorts show better employment integration than some earlier ones. Canada remains the top destination per capita. Pathways to citizenship and multicultural core features. It's exposed the post 2015-2022 expansion strained capacity, leading to integration challenge, public backlash, perception that volume sometimes trumps quality or sustainability. Temporary. This is what I've seen. Yeah. Temporary to PR pathways, permanent residence pathways, expanded but created backlog and mismatch. Critics argue it moved away from pure merit-based selection towards other priority continue to economic drags. Reform in progress. Reduction and tightening addresses the main point. The main pain points. Oversupply relative to housing/services. Early data suggests temporary residence numbers are declining. Some housing pressure indicates modestly. However, businesses and universities have raised concern about labor shortages and revenue from lower student. Well, labor shortages, AI is going to. Revenue from lower student. I mean, that's just part of the system now, right? System changes, you have to adapt. Long-term success hinges on whether housing supply ramps up or economic newcomers continues improving. In short, the system wasn't broken foundational design, but overburdened by rapid, unmanaged growth. The current version is restrained capacity, which many view as a necessary fix rather it regains its really good reputation will depend on execution. Economic needs, maintaining selectivity, building public trust, immigration remains essential for Canada's economic, but the pace and mix matter a lot. Okay. The permanent resident target. I've heard that the permanent residence targets in Canada, that the Carney has created like a new category, so to hide the actual permanent residents. Heard that the permanent resident targets in Canada. Heard that the permanent resident. Created a new category to hide. Can you tell me more about this? I don't remember the exact phrasing. It was like, okay, let's see. You'll probably get it. The claim you're heard refers to how Canada's 2026-28 immigration levels plan released and presented a headline permanent resident target annually for, okay. This on. However, the plan also includes separate additional one-time or accelerated pathways. This is it. For people already in Canada as temporary residents. So they're not bringing in new permanent residents from outside of Canada. They are taking the temporary residents that have been allowed here in the past and creating a pathway temporary residents become permanent. So the actual external permanent residents are going down. They're creating additional pathways for temporary to become permanent. I mean, like the whole temporary residence, I can understand student visa, bringing people over to go to your universities, but a lot of the other ones, I guess, like if people come here just to, I don't know. I don't like the temporary residence system, like at all. Like, if you bring people over, there should be a pathway to permanent residency. Now, I believe we should be reducing the number that we're bringing over, because we used to have it like when Canada's immigration was considered great, brought over like 200,000 a year. We're now bringing over double that still. I think we should get it back to like a manageable number. Our population's grown, but not to that degree. Like a target of what, 250,000? Anyway, however, the plan also includes separate additional one-time or accelerated pathways for people already in Canada as temporary residents. Critics argue these extras effectively mean the true number of permanent residence grants could be higher than the publicized 380,000 figure, making the overall intake lower than it is in practice. The new category or additional pathway. The main points of contention involving two key additional announcements alongside the 380K target. Up to 33,000 temporary workers, work permit holders. The one-time initiative to accelerate transition from temporary to permanent status in 2026. It targets skilled workers already contributing in Canada, often in high-demand sectors. The pathway is described as separate or annual target to help retain talent while reducing the temporary resident. See, I don't really mind this. I personally want that number to go. That is what I'll vote for. People that are already here, already working, like as long as they're integrating into society, I don't really care if they're a temporary resident or permanent resident. Approximately 115,000 protected persons in Canada are individuals already in the country who are being processed or fast-tracked for permanent residence over the next few years. Worker pathway, this is presented as additional to the standard 380K headline number. When combined, some analysts, commenters note that the effective total permanent resident grants could be closer to 445,000 in near term, depending on how the extras, rather than strictly 380,000 new arrivals abroad. Government frames 380 as the planned admission targets across the usual categories, while the extras address backlogs or in Canada's transitions without counting against the headline cap in the same way. Okay, let's just go to the bottom of this because I started watching a video. We got 3 minutes through. Okay. The plan keeps permanent residents below 1% of Canada's population annually after 2027. Economic immigration remains the priority to provincial nominee programs and French-speaking targets outside Quebec. Temporary resident caps, students, workers have seen steeper cuts. This approach tries to balance labor needs and retention of existing talents, capacity constraints. Whether the headline versus total distinction amounts to hiding numbers is debated. Yeah, government documents to disclose the extras. They are not folded into a single annual permanent residence figure that gets public attention. For the most precise and okay, let's just tell. Honestly, like this initiative I like more than flat immigration number. I like the old ones back when the conservatives were government. Let's see. Can I get the permanent resident immigration numbers for the past 12 years in Canada? Let's see the chart. Chart.
Transforming fast. They launched sweeping reforms to modernize, and it became more deeply integrated with the rest of Canada. But this raised a concern. They were the only French-speaking region of North America, after this language and culture had largely been suppressed in other parts. In Louisiana, French was banned from education and mostly suppressed from public life. In parts of New England, Ontario, and Manitoba, the government...
To be fair, this is done massively in every country that's trying to create like a national identity. Like old school France had a lot of languages and they basically banned all of them but France and forcibly taught French everywhere in order to like significantly easier to bring your people together if there is a common language. People learned this a long time ago. Want to create an identity nation, more or less need common language. So this has always been done. It looks like it. French was one of the things suppressed in Louisiana. Chart. Okay, so they're not. It wasn't as low as I thought. 260. This is back. And when did Trudeau come in? Around. Start to see targets go. Ooh, sharp drop due to COVID. Okay. So these. What was he? Did 4 years before COVID. Next, and then you see the huge increase. And now it looks like they're trying to get the targets back to something more normal. All right. Yeah, I agree. Like I want to aim. Our population's grown significantly, so I'd say around 300K. Be like if I was prime minister, around 300K, what I would aim for. Permanent resident. And I mean temporary residents. I don't like that system. Temporary resident system reminds me of the immigration that happened in the US. That system should be addressed. Looks like they're trying to at least. Okay.
Continue. Had actively suppressed the language, and the large French-speaking population was assimilated within just a couple of generations. As Quebec was modernizing, there emerged a nationalist movement. They were given the mandate to hold a referendum on independence, and this was a great concern in Ottawa. Pierre Trudeau was Prime Minister, and he promised that if Quebec voted to stay, they would change Canada's constitution. 60% voted against, and now they had work to do. But the negotiations were very difficult. They happened mostly behind closed doors.
Is that why French is our second language? Canada?
And they lacked transparency. All the provinces partook, but one night, the other...
Like, we still see echoes of this, right? They got really mad at that airline CEO who couldn't speak French, that they got him fired. They got so mad that he couldn't speak French.
Provinces had reached a deal after Quebec's premier had already left, and he felt betrayed, and they refused to sign the new constitution. This led to more talks, and Ottawa tried to bring Quebec into the constitution. After 5 years of negotiating, they signed the Meech Lake Accord, which was by many seen as a much more favorable deal to Quebec, and it showed. In the years between the 1982 Constitution and when the Meech Lake Accord was signed, the movement calling for independence lost much of its momentum. But there was a caveat. This accord could only come into effect if all...
Wait. There's something on that graph. Meech Lake Accord signed. Independence spiked?
lost much of its momentum, but there was a caveat. This accord could only come into effect if all provinces unanimously ratified the deal, and it wasn't well received at all. For years, the deal was discussed and criticized. Quebec wanted to be recognized as a distinct society, which other provinces interpreted as them asking for special treatment. And they wanted all provinces to be treated equally. By 1990, the accord had officially failed, and over this time, support for independence in Quebec rose to a record 65%. A growing number of people felt that change could not come from within, and this set the pretext for that 1995 referendum where the vote was decided by less than 60,000 people. That's when another province started flirting with the idea of leaving. Canada is an incredibly diverse country. They speak both English and French, they have indigenous nations, oil provinces, and financial hubs. Alberta runs mostly on energy, while Ontario drives manufacturing. They agreed to let provinces shape policy to fit their local realities, but people are increasingly skeptical about the role of Ottawa.
Sainte-Catherine, devant le Métropolis, vous voyez une autre arrestation, car ils n'ont pas envie d'accepter le résultat.
Since the late 1990s, in all provinces and regions of Canada, the number of people who see more advantages than disadvantages of having a federalist system has been in decline.
Canada's federal has more advantages than disadvantages. Percentage of people that say this? Not sure. It's hovering around 50% nowadays. Quebec and the West are going down. Atlantic, Ontario are up. I mean, like, the collective bargaining of larger Canada is significant. Giving the provinces, I think, more sway their own economics is probably a good thing. Like the larger units are largely support Alberta staying a part of Canada, fighting to gain more independence, their own economic future, control over how they want to do immigration, control how the province wants to do things.
In the West, that figure has dropped from 60% in 1998 to just 41% in 2019. And Alberta is a noteworthy example. They found oil in the late 1940s, and this transformed Alberta from being a farming province with wheat.
I mean, a lot of it still is. I've driven across Alberta. There is a lot of wheat fields. A lot of wheat fields. The southern part of the province is all agriculture.
Cattle and wide prairies to an economy defined by oil. Its history with the federal government made it fiercely protective of its control over natural resources. But Ottawa was going to challenge that.
My colleagues in the government and I have come reluctantly to believe that the price of oil in Canada must go up.
During the global oil shocks of the 1970s, the prices of oil suddenly soared, and this had a tremendous impact on the entire country. Energy suddenly became a matter of national security, and Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau responded by introducing the National Energy Program. This officially aimed at ensuring energy security and to redistribute Canada's oil wealth more evenly across the provinces. but Alberta had a different perspective. The federal government imposed price controls and high taxes. This led to investment to slow and some of their rigs to shut down. This was still manageable because the price of oil was very high. But as the prices collapsed in the 1980s, thousands of people in Alberta lost their jobs. Home values fell province-wide, and many Albertans felt that the federal policies had worsened the crash. When Alberta was formed, they weren't given equal control over their natural resources, and now the National Energy Program crystallized the narrative that Alberta's oil wealth could be taken away by Ottawa. This drove feelings of alienation and resentment in the 1980s and 90s. Today, Alberta often pays more to the federal government per capita than any other province. Ottawa redistributes wealth from wealthier provinces to poorer ones to ensure comparable public services across Canada.
Our province has contributed hundreds of billions of dollars more to the federal treasury for use in other parts of the country than we'll ever receive back in benefits.
But Alberta needs the other provinces. They mostly ship their oil through pipelines to refineries in the United States, but in the mid-2010s, the markets saw another shock. After many years of high oil prices, a barrel of crude suddenly lost nearly half its value in a single year, and the United States made it even worse. They offered prices that were substantially lower than the market value, and this exposed a vulnerability. If Alberta exports nearly all of its oil to the United States, they have little control over how much they can charge. This intensified the campaign to invest in infrastructure to help bring their oil to the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean, from where it could be exported to other foreign markets. But this means that Alberta must cross other provinces. A proposed pipeline through the Rocky Mountains faced environmental opposition.
I mean, like, this is how all countries do it. You look at Russia, back when they had good ties with the European Union, they built pipelines to ship their oil. Pay countries they shipped oil through in order to have that pipeline there transit their country. These have always happened, but I imagine being part of Canada makes this easier.
And legal challenges in British Columbia. Another proposed pipeline through Quebec was met with a similar kind of resistance. Many in Alberta felt that they were funding a country that was blocking its main industry, and in return, they had very limited power in the federal government.
We will make life more affordable. We will continue to fight climate change.
I mean, like, I hate this guy. He did so much damage to Canada. Everything he said was a lie. He didn't do any of it. He actively harmed everything. It was so many of the charts. Like, look at the US and it's Reagan. All of the charts started to go really bad when Reagan took office. Canada, it's Trudeau. All of the lines, all of the charts start to go bad when he took office. It was a massive mistake.
Change, and we will keep investing in Canadians.
In 2019, Justin Trudeau was re-elected, and the vote showed deep.
He was re-elected because of COVID. COVID happened. He had the response of hand people money during COVID. Guess what? If you hand people money, they like you, and they'll vote for you. That's how he got reelected. He had to put up with him for 8 years.
Provincial divisions. Trudeau's party won a significant share of the vote in large provinces like Ontario and Quebec, but in western provinces like British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, his party was deeply unpopular. It didn't matter that most Albertans had voted Conservative. The power in the federal government went to the Liberals, and Wexit went viral.
Wexit, a new effort to tap into a separatist sentiment.
Come on. You can do better than that. That's a terrible name.
In Alberta.
Separation, is that a viable plan B?
What's the numbers? What are the numbers? What percentage of people in Alberta want to vote to separate from Canada? Will vote to separate, want to vote to separate.
If we can't work this out.
It called for Alberta, and sometimes together with Saskatchewan, to leave Canada, and rallies were held at Alberta's legislature.
Look no further than this upside-down Canadian flag, where hundreds gathered.
Distress. They're in distress. That's what that means, right? I feel sorry for the people that can't put their flag upside down. Let's see. 27% of decided voters would vote to separate. 26. What about this one? 29. 20. Thing is, numbers like this can swing wildly. You were looking at those graphs earlier, right? Seeing these like this one. Where am I? And like, look at how like one action wild swing from they're sitting at like 26, so we're at like 29. One action can cause a wild swing, and if you set up to have your vote here, and then if you can trigger this action, get separation. That's a scary number to have. If a province votes to separate, what else happens? Like, are there more steps? Do they separate? I imagine there are significant other hurdles you have to get through. Yes. A provincial referendum is only the starting point. So it's not like a Brexit. Brexit was the vote, okay, the government goes through with it. But it looks like there's more to duty to negotiate. The referendum passes, the clarity test Supreme Court ruling creates constitutional obligation for the federal government and the province to negotiate in good faith. And constitutional amendment is required for actual separation. Canadian Constitution, there is no unilateral right to leave. So, even if you vote to separate, there's not actually, you don't just get to separate. The standard amendment formula for this would generally be the 750 rule. Approval by at least 7 provinces representing at least 50% of Canada's population plus federal approval. So even if you vote to separate, you don't separate. I mean, that makes sense. But there would be a lot of, bottom line, a yes vote in a provincial referendum would trigger negotiations at most, not immediate separation. Actual separation is widely viewed as by constitutional experts as extremely difficult or practically impossible without broader national consensus, which is currently absent. Most Canadians and residents of other provinces strongly oppose it. In short, a referendum vote is symbolic and starts a conversation. That is the basics. A referendum vote is symbolic and starts a conversation. Like, I got no problem with a conversation. But many more steps, negotiations, it'll never. Where was I? 10. The distress flag.
Than this upside-down Canadian flag, where hundreds gathered to discuss separation.
We're going to make Alberta great again, and that is when we cut ourselves off from the leech.
Like, the thing most people don't know is that culturally, Canada is quite similar to the. You would be surprised by how many people there are like this. Like how many people would support Trump or would lean into make Alberta great again. Honestly, like if it wasn't for Trump's whole push of the 51st state on Canada, he'd probably be pretty popular. Like I think he'd see near equal popularity in Canada as he sees in the US if it wasn't for that push. It was the 51st state push that pushed the Canadian people away from him and the US in general, in my opinion. In my opinion, massive tactical error on his part. Like if you ever think he's thinking in like 5D chess, just remember how much he shot himself in the foot by getting another Liberal elected in Canada with his rhetoric. All right, let's continue.
That is Eastern Canada.
Polls showed support for independence climbing into the high 20s and sometimes 30%. But while some people truly want independence, another poll showed that 1 in 5 saw their
I don't want independence. I want more control over my oil profits in my province. I want more control over the industry. I want more control over the immigration. I want to be able to develop the province in specific ways that we can't do at the moment. And in Canada, like the provinces have more power. Quebec had their push, their independence push, and now they have the Bloc Québécois, I think it's called, as a standing political party, the federal government that gets seats every time because of their initial independence push. Like, if we could do something like that, I think that would be good.
Leave vote as a symbolic way to express their political frustrations. But what if a clear majority voted to leave? What would happen next? After the razor-thin 1995 elections in Quebec, Canadian lawmakers started defining the legal path to secession. They passed the Clarity Act in 2000, which says a clear majority in favor of secession would be required to create an obligation to negotiate secession. In other words, the process of declaring independence starts with a referendum, and a clear win creates a duty to negotiate, but that doesn't automatically grant the right to leave. In Quebec, the main driver for separatism is that they want to protect their language and their culture, and they see Quebec as a distinct nation. Separatists believe that the federal government is dominated by the English-speaking provinces, and the diplomatic failures of the 1980s
Like, it definitely is.
reinforced the belief that it cannot be resolved from within. But would it solve anything?
Like, you can resolve pretty much anything. We look at the U.S. and Iran; they're slowly figuring out how to resolve their difference. Yes, there had to be bombs dropped, but they're figuring it out. Like French is our nation has two primary languages. French, even though what is it, like 70% Canadians speak just English, and only like 12% speak French. Like I think that's fine.
If they declare independence. The long-term trend is that a growing number of people in Quebec favor to stay in Canada, which makes independence unlikely. But if it does come through, it is uncertain what would happen next. Canada is Quebec's main trading partner, and it would have to renegotiate a trade deal.
Canada is Quebec's. I mean, Look at the board.
Their borders would change. Supply chains and investment could be disrupted. It would cause currency issues. They would have to build their own national defense force. Separatism feeds on real greed.
I don't think you understand all the problems with your own independent nation. Creates a lot of issues.
Grievances and real critique.
I personally don't see Quebec or Alberta separating time. I don't think they should, and I don't think they will.
But where it often falls short is that it presents independence as
But there's no problem with a conversation.
a solution to all these problems, while they hardly discuss the ripple effect that it would have across all public sectors. It often confuses temporary cycles for structural oppression. In Quebec, support for separatism often increases whenever there is a perception that the national government is against their interests, but governments change. Similarly, in Alberta, support for separatism often increases whenever the oil industry is under pressure. Their main driver for separatism is the economy. They feel like the other provinces and federal policies are negatively impacting their main industry, and that they have limited political power.
I mean, I think you're going to see a change in this, but like I said, Trudeau focused on environmental policy, which, I mean, extracting oil does harm the environment. It is not an environmentally friendly activity. Certainly not the fracking we do here in Canada. So, like, this whole thing, Alberta separatism thing, I think is because Trudeau and his government were so hostile to the oil industry. I mean, like, one day we got to get off oil. I don't see that happening short. We are making strides. Renewables are good. Still have an issue with energy storage. Batteries suck energy storage. That'll have to be fixed before we can try and get off oil. But I think oil's going to continue to power the world, and incredibly important. Like another 50 years. Investment into this is be good now. I think from all I've seen, Carney is much more friendly to the oil industry. Is Carney more supportive of the oil industry than Trudeau was? See what it says.
Power. But as oil cycles turned and national policies adapted, support for separatism has historically faded. The problem then is that separatism is often linked to temporary cycles, while the question of independence is very structural, very fundamental, and it's very difficult to reverse. But the fact that these discussions are held can be construed as something very positive and something very typically Canadian. It's all rooted in how Canada confederated. They decided to have a form of government where the differences between provinces were encouraged, and they did this by allowing a substantial degree of autonomy. But for this to work, the provinces had to work together, and this required constant negotiation. That is still the case today. Each of the Canadian provinces is seeking to balance federal with provincial power. And as society evolves, this must constantly be negotiated to adapt to new realities. The system is flawed, but it's fluid. So you may have noticed that our channel right now is getting a fraction of the views that it used to get about a year ago. And one of the main reasons that I see for this is that we're getting a lot of negative engagement. So the biggest thing that I notice is that if a video
Negative engagement hurts you?
the first couple of days is getting a lot of dislikes or it's getting a lot of negative comments, that is interpreted by YouTube as a sign that it is a bad video. But I really do want to believe that there's an audience out there of people that appreciate.
I mean, to be fair, like, engagement is. Right. Well, I'm gonna link video here. This chat. Boom. Okay. Gotta play around with thing over. Not right now. That's the question. Yes, Mark Carney has shown more pragmatic and cooperative support for Canada's oil and gas industry, particularly Alberta's oil sands. Justin Trudeau did in his later office. However, the difference is one of degree and tone rather than universal. Carney remains committed to long-term net zero emissions by 2050 climate goal. 2050 seems like a short period to get to net zero emissions to me. I feel does net zero emissions indicate how much you emit and then how much you take out? Because from my understanding, the boreal forest that we have up there in Canada, massive CO2 sink, absorbs massive amounts of CO2, far more than it is a country. He has prioritized economic growth, competitiveness, collaboration with industry and provinces over strict regulatory limits. Like, that's the direction we got to move in. Bottom line, Carney has been more supportive and proactive so far. Fewer direct production constraints, more openness to new pipelines / export infrastructure, and a willingness to negotiate rather than impose unilateral federal rule. This reflects political realities and a strategic pivot towards making Canada an energy superpower that export more responsibly produced oil and gas while pursuing emission reductions through technology. That said, he has not abandoned climate goals. Okay. How do I phrase? How much CO2 is produced in Canada? How much CO2 is absorbed by the forests within Canada? Oh, have I hit my... Still good. I think when you put it on expert mode, you get less communication, responses. Canada's total greenhouse gas emissions, primarily CO2 and other gases expressed as CO2 equivalent, are approximately 685-ish megaton CO2 per year in recent decades. Okay, so megatons of CO2 Q per year. Well, we'll just use the megatons. A forest, net carbon balance. Canada's vast boreal forest, one of the world's largest, both absorb and release CO2 through growth, decay, harvesting, and natural disturbance like wildfires and insects. Gross absorption. Carbon uptake by growing forest vegetation is substantial, often hundreds of megatons annually in normal years, but it's offset by releases. Net effect on managed forest. Canada's managed forests have been a net carbon source, releasing more CO2 than they absorb in most years since around 2001. This is largely due to increased wildfires, insect outbreaks, and harvesting. Oh, in high fire years like 2023, wildfires alone reached enormous amounts. Like the climate change is making a lot of northern forests in Canada far more likely to burn than they used to. Natural Resources Canada states clearly that since 1990, Canada's managed forests have generally become a net carbon source rather than a sink when between all fluxes. Why a net source? Wildfires and harvesting release stored carbon faster than regrowth can absorb it in many years. Post-fire regrowth eventually, much of it, but the timing, increased disturbance, frequency matter. When included in total national GHG totals, it can slightly lower the reported figure in low fire years. It does not turn Canada into a net zero or net negative emitter overall. Energy and oil and gas sectors dominate the human caused footprint. Okay, so the information I'd heard before was just wrong. It seems like forests are not actually a large source of a large carbon sink. Like, it makes sense to me because the tree gets eventually dies and the carbon is released, right? But I thought they were more of a carbon sink. I mean, like, the whole fight carbon thing is planting trees. Okay, let's get down here. In summary, Canada emits roughly 690 MT CO2 metric tons of carbon Q, I don't know what that is, annually from human activities. While the forests provide significant gross absorption, have been a net source of emission in recent decades due to disturbances, meaning they do not fully offset the country's fossil fuel and other emissions. Okay. Let me ask another question. If forests can be a net source of carbon emissions, then they're not a very good carbon sink, correct? If so, then why is there such a push to plant trees to fight climate change? Let's see. Like, do trees not do what we think they do? Stop rolling. Yes, you're correct in a narrow sense. If a specific forest or country managed forest like Canada's is a net carbon source in a given period, releasing more CO2 than it's not acting as a carbon sink during that time. Canada's official data confirms this for its managed forest in many years, primarily due to intensified wildfires, insect harvesting, legacy effect of past disturbance. Let's get why forests can flip between sink and source. Gross uptake is still huge. Growing trees and vegetations absorb substantial carbon via photosynthesis every year. Net balance depends on release, decay, respiration, harvesting, and especially natural disturbances like wildfires or pests. In Canada's case, managed forests were often a net sink historically. Okay. But disturbances have tipped the balance in recent decades. Unmanaged or broader territorial ecosystems can behave differently. Post-disturbance regrowth eventually reabsorbs much of the released carbon over decades, though accelerated disturbance under warming can outpace recovery. Why the push to plant trees, restore forests? Tree planting and forest restoration remains promoted as part of climate strategies for several evidence-based reasons, even accounting for the risks you've noted. Additional carbon storage in the right context. Planting trees, previously non-forested or degraded land, can create a new plant sink. So, putting a forest where there isn't a forest creates a good sink. Young forests sequester carbon quickly as they grow. Global estimates suggest forests, existing plus restored, still provide a net sink overall. historically absorbing around 25 to 30% of annual CO2 emissions from fossil fuels. Though this is weakening due to disturbances, targeted restoration can transfer carbon from the atmosphere into biomass soil for decades to centuries. Avoid worsening outcomes. The strongest climate benefits often come from protecting existing intact forests rather than just planting new ones. Deforestation and degradation turn sinks into sources, stopping that preserved stores carbon take. Many plant trees campaigns pair with anti-deforestation effort. Natural regeneration and degradation benefits beyond timing and scale matters. Limitations acknowledged in science. No, okay. In short, forests can be excellent carbon sinks under stable conditions, but climate change itself, via fires, droughts, pests, is undermining that role in many places, including Canada. The push for planting/restoration is about expanding or recovering that capacity where feasible, while prioritizing protection of existing forests and aggressive cuts to human emissions. One tool in a larger kit, not a silver bullet, as heavily on how, where, alongside what other actions is pursued. Okay, so forests are good. Climate change itself is making them less effective through wildfires, pests, and stuff like that. Because Canada historically had large wildfires. Recently, it's become no longer a sink, but a carbon source. That is unfortunate. I thought our large forests did more. They do not. Alright, well, I think I've done that one. I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna go grab a drink. I'll be back in a minute. All right. How's the music? Close. Put it back. Oh. Hey, got a follower on Twitch. Thanks for following. Cool. 7 followers. Kick. And YouTube is just zeros across the board. Okay. Check this out. Okay, so let's go here. Hindsight. I really like that. He did a good job on that video. I want to check Hindsight out more. I'm actually gonna move Hodge down because I wasn't enjoying the couple videos. Yeah, so that's basically what I'm gonna be doing. Is there any new Kirkitsu? So this one is. So I had the issue where I had an old YouTube account which I was using, but because I keep switching to my new YouTube account or to stream, I had a problem where I'd have videos watched here and videos not watched here, and it would be like recommending me stuff I've seen. So I've had to basically completely switch. So these are taken from my old. Some of them I'm not going to be subscribed to. And it won't show how many I've watched, which is annoying. Ooh, most insane mega project you never heard about. I've heard about this one. I'm pretty sure you can see circles from space where they've created nice nuke-sized lakes in Russia. One month, 2 weeks. So I haven't watched those. I'm going to watch this one first. They bet everything on Grand Theft Auto 6. So I've played, but I never purchased Grand Theft Auto. When it first came out, a buddy of mine had it on an Xbox, Xbox or PlayStation. I don't know. Anyway, played through the whole campaign. Dropped the game after that. Never touched it again. But the GTA 5 online that came out later was really interesting to me. Like, not interesting enough for me to spend the whole money to buy the game, but it looked cool. Like, it looked cool enough that I would be interested in GTA 6 because the live aspect was done well. So let's have a listen to it. Is like, don't they keep pushing it back?
Release in history, and it's not even out yet. I recognize that there's a lot of people where maybe this game isn't going to be your cup of tea, but you still have to recognize that the anticipation behind this game is absolutely absurd. And as long as this game delivers on its quality, it is likely going to become the highest selling and the fastest selling game in the history of the industry.
Absolutely. Like, GTA has been one of those brands that's just kept building. And like, GTA 5 was one of those just wild, out of nowhere drops. And so I can only see it continuing to build.
It's going to suck up time and attention at a rate that we never even thought was possible. And now it has many people in the games industry believing that this game is going to be the magic bullet that's going to essentially be able to save them from all their problems. And
Did they go woke? Did they? Are they gonna do that to GTA 5? I mean GTA 6? Like the least woke franchise possible, where you can just like run people down in the street. I mean, I hope not. I hope
turn everything around. This game is going to make so much money. It's going to bring in so much money into the games industry. It's going to bring new players and old players, people that have never even played games. It's going to sell consoles. It's going to sell accessories. It's going to bring in investors coming in on the hype, seeing the industry start booming. All these guys believing that
okay, he's getting me excited for it.
this one game is going to be able to fix all of their problems. But it won't. Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to save the game.
Why? You were getting me excited. Don't bail on me.
Games
Come
industry
on.
like a winning lottery ticket saves a gambling addict. Who are we kidding here? This game, what I think is going to happen is it's going to come in long enough and save the industry just long enough to choke the life out of it itself. This game is going to be so ubiquitous and all-consuming that it is going to force the industry to rise by its mere presence and then just crash it straight into the ground. These people are coming.
I'll be honest. In my opinion, games industry it's in the best place it's ever been. Every year, there are new good games released that I don't have time to play. The list of games that I would like to play, but I can't, continues to grow. And it only seems to grow more and more every year. Yes, there's a lot of crap out there, but this looks like it's going to be one of the ones I'd like to try and play. Now, I will wait for initial reviews, as I always do.
For Grand Theft
But we
Auto
will
6, and we have an industry where they have nowhere else that they're going to want to go. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about how Grand Theft Auto 6 is already affecting the games industry, what its success is likely to look like, the boom that that's going to bring to the industry, what the impacts of that boom are going to look like, and how the industry has now convinced themselves that this game is a magic bullet, but what they're not realizing is it's just a bullet. It has been since March of 2025.
Like, how old is this game? Like 2014 or something? Those are good graphics.
That we have heard anything substantial about Grand Theft Auto 6. Just an absolute drought of information. The only real scraps of news that we've been able to go off of is a few layoffs that are likely pointing to development winding down, controversies around union busting, the CEO saying that they don't see AI replacing developers, and also laying off basically their entire AI development team. And more recently, in an interview with the games business, they finally put the pricing debate to bed, saying that the game is likely going to cost between $70 or $80.
Beautiful. I don't like the this endless price increase they've been doing. I haven't bought an $80 game in a long time, and I don't plan on it, but maybe this one.
Which I'm willing to bet it's probably going to be around $70, especially given the current market. You can probably now hear 1,000 CEOs just screaming into the void because they're not going to be able to use Grand Theft Auto 6 as an excuse to be able to start charging $100 for games. But
I mean, like, I have enough games on my list that are $20 that I don't get to play. I have no need to ever purchase a $70 video game. Ever. Because if the game's $20 and it's on my list, it's above the $70 game. And I'm never going to get through all the $20 games on my list. 20, the 30. I still... This one. Expedition 33. I hear great things. I'm like 25% of the way through the game, and then I got distracted by probably League of Legends again. I want to go back and play that. I already own it. You're going to have to give me something better than that if you want me to spend money.
you know, outside of that, we're just in the eye of the storm right now. That weird, eerie calm where this game is just going to come in and it's just going to rip the world apart. I don't think people...
I mean, like, what they did in like 2014 or whenever number 5 came out was crazy.
Fully grasp the inevitability of what is about to happen with this game. Regardless of whether you like this game or not, whether you plan to buy it or not, everybody is at least a little bit curious. Everybody wants to know what this game is, what it looks like, what it does, what's going to happen when it finally comes out. But I still don't think people actually comprehend just how much of a monster this series is, or how little conventional wisdom matters once Rockstar enters the room. Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to sell a brain-melting amount of copies. Did you guys know that in 2025, Grand Theft Auto 5 hit 225 million copies sold, making it the second best-selling?
It's one of those games that you like purchased on an Xbox and purchased on a PC, and then like you purchased it before like you purchased it as a hard copy initially, and then you lost the hard copy, and then you had to purchase it again now that it's on Steam.
Game in history. And in 2025 alone,
Wait. Numbers. Like numbers. Tetris. Really? Like Minecraft has always been one of those games I never really got into. It's too blocky. I've played it multiple times. I think they keep adding more stuff to it, don't they, nowadays? Because the ownership of Minecraft changed. So it started expanding on it. And for just like a world building game, it's good. But not one of my favorites. Not one of the ones I go back to. Grand Theft Auto 225 million. Look at the drop off. After that, Wii Sports, Red Dead, Mario Kart makes. Oh, these are just more data on it. Tetris is crazy. I mean, sales means you actually sell Tetris. That's like a cheap game, right? Minecraft is. I mean, I think I've bought Minecraft like 3 different times throughout my life. I don't even know how I'd access Minecraft right now if I wanted to. Never got Grand Theft Auto.
And in 2025 alone, Grand Theft Auto 5, a now 13-year-old game, sold 20 million copies. A 13-year-old game. It ranked 14th best on Steam for the entire year.
Top sellers. How do you put free to play into the top sellers? I paid for that one. I definitely have paid for that one. How is that free to play? They pull an Overwatch. Never got into Counter-Strike or Warframe. Warframe is one of those weird ones. Like it's still getting popular. Crimson Desert, the number 4 is the $70 game. Apex, still up there, huh? For weeks. Oh, top 100 selling games right now by revenue. So this is how much money they're making right now. Never even heard of that one. Play the Spire 2, I intend to get at some point. That's on the list. It's always Arc Raiders, but that one's a waste. Okay.
And it was 20th best for the entire year for all platforms. Only behind games that came out that year. And if we actually go and we combine the player counts of Grand Theft Auto Enhanced and Legacy Editions for nearly a decade now, this game has been averaging almost 180,000 players on Steam, remaining in the top 5 most played games.
Like the Grand Theft Auto 5 Live did crazy numbers for the game.
Games every single day. You know, anomaly is not normally a word that I would like to use for games. That word is likely to give me a rash at this point. It immediately takes me back to how developers in the media were trying to slap that label onto Baldur's Gate 3 like they needed to create some self-quarantine zone around that game so that players didn't start expecting that level of quality, scope, creativity, passion, or care from the rest of the industry. But real anomalies do exist, and Grand Theft Auto is definitely one of them. A game just doesn't get this big by accident.
I mean, like, I don't think it's so much an anomaly. You see different games trying to mimic or copy this, like Red Dead Redemption 2 with large open. It had a lot of similarities to this style of gameplay. But obviously a different setting. Modern.
It doesn't sell this many copies, stay this relevant for this long, and become this unavoidable without having some kind of black magic behind it. Grand Theft Auto really is just that game. It doesn't matter how old you are, where you're from, what you normally play, or whether or not you even think of yourself as a gamer. Damn near everybody has played it, seen it, talked about it, or at the very least knows exactly what it is. It cuts through every
He shoots the guy.
Or damn near everybody has played it, seen it, talked about it, or at the very least knows exactly what it is. It cuts through every single taste barrier and culture barrier that you can think of. And I think a huge reason for that is just because of the unlimited levels of freedom that this game offers that nobody has ever been able to match. The core of this game is just so simple and immediate. Anybody can pick up a controller and they can find something fun to do within seconds. Walk into traffic and get launched by a car, steal something.
Just drive as fast as you can until you destroy your vehicle.
Crash something, start a fight, go on a police chase, screw around for 20 minutes and never even touch a mission. It's a cinematic game, a third-person shooter, a driving game, a flying game, a sandbox, a mess-around simulator more than anything else. And half the time, that's before you even actually start playing the game or even going online. It was the first true everything game. In a lot of ways, it still is. It is just omnipotent at this point. So if a 13-year-old game is out here still staying this relevant and outselling brand new releases, what exactly do you guys think is going to happen when the next one releases this year? Well, analysts are throwing out some absolutely stupid numbers. Over $7 billion in the first 60 days, at least $1 billion.
Wait, what was that? What was that? Analysts? GTA 6, 7.6 billion revenue forecast raises eyebrows despite massive hype. 7.6 billion? I don't know. How much did the last one make? It could. I mean, I hope they don't start putting predatory monetization. GTA 5 Live, such a large step, and they could put predatory monetization into GTA 6 Live, hoping that they do not.
Days, at least $1 billion in pre-sales alone, 20 million copies sold in the first 24 hours, 20 million new console sales across Xbox and PlayStation in the first year. And look, I can already hear you guys have your eyebrows raising. I can actually hear that through the screen right now, even though this is pre-recorded. Just don't even mind that. I'm usually a little bit more cynical when it comes to numbers like this, especially when it comes to a game that is being locked behind current generation consoles for at least a year. But honestly, with how weak this generation has been when it comes to actual must-have games, those predictions don't really sound as insane as they probably should. Opinion's Gaming in 2025 report showed that console spending actually hit a high in 2025. The problem is that money hasn't been actually going to any of the new games in the way that it should. A lot of that growth has been in subscriptions and services instead, which lines up pretty cleanly with how this generation has probably felt to a lot of us, which is this industry is just not giving us enough games that actually feel worth giving a damn about. Now, while I can sit here and complain all day talking about prices and trying to tear apart the economics of the industry and what they've been doing the past few years, one of the biggest reasons that it's been suffering is a lot simpler, and it's just that these guys have just not made enough games that have made us feel compelled to show up for them. They have not made enough games that have felt worth buying an Xbox for, buying a PlayStation for, worth paying full price for, worth coming back for. But Grand Theft Auto 6, for a lot of people, is going to be that game. It is the consumerist game, the only consumerist game in my eyes, barring it not being a complete piece of shit. And honestly, even if it is, people are probably still going to show up and throw money at it anyway. That's why Strauss Zelnick flat out said that he is not worried about launching the game only on console, or that consoles are lagging behind PC right now, because regardless of what anybody says online, people are still just going to buy this game.
Is it not dropping on PC at the same time? When is GTA 6 coming out? And is it releasing on PC and console at the same time? It's scheduled to release November 19th. That's away. PlayStation 5 confirmed their official release date. The game. Okay, no, it is not released on PC at the same time as console. Oh, the launch is console only. PC version is expected later, but Rockstar and Take-Two have not announced an official PC date. Oh. So what am I getting excited for? This is like the initial hype. You get a lot of new people in. If you don't release it on PC at the same time as console, we're going to miss a lot of play. Like you just are. You're still going to have a huge player base because of the last game, but you will miss people that would have played it otherwise. The hype is what'll push it into like algorithms, and then they'll be like, oh, maybe I should pick that up, and they'll look at it, and then they'll realize, oh, they can't get it on their computer. Okay, well, I'll think about it when we can. And guess what? When it releases on PC, you're not going to get the same hype as the initial release.
Even at high prices, it's going to move hardware. Even above $70, it's going to move copies. And the economic impact of that is going to wash over this games industry like holy water. Almost overnight, it is going to make console feel alive again. It is going to push people to finally buy hardware, to finally force them into upgrades. It's going to get people to start paying attention to the industry again, to put money in a lot of people's pockets, and also give the industry the kind of massive win that it's been desperate for so long now. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be the exact same kind of thing, but I think the closest comparison that I can give is the Nintendo Wii. Gaming was already getting more into the mainstream at the time, but the Nintendo Wii just blew the doors off the entire thing. It was one of those rare pieces of hardware that broke through the usual audience and started dragging people in who normally didn't play games at all. It crossed age barriers, taste barriers, even the usual stigma around video games. And because of that, it helped push the industry deeper into the mainstream. Grand Theft Auto has that same kind of energy. It has that same kind of reach. And as a second order of effect, back then when the Wii first came out, while the industry didn't need saving at the time,
watching an asset like an in-game asset like money around. Look at how rigid.
As a second order of effect, back then when the Wii first came out,
making small objects like that move, it's so difficult. Like it requires, you go in there, you rig it, and then you gotta like adjust it slightly as it, like doing something like that is so difficult that you never see it. Whenever they hold a piece of paper or a piece of money, it's always a rigid object. I mean, you see that in most things.
While the industry didn't need saving at the time, all ships rose with the tide. Sales exploded. People were buying more games. People were buying more consoles.
She's moving the money now.
More people are paying attention to the industry, paying attention to games. More people are investing in games. It felt like the entire industry just got bigger all at once. And in a lot of ways, that helped define that entire golden era. And while I realize that this sounds like a wild prediction, and honestly one that you probably never thought I would actually make, I do think that Grand Theft Auto is going to be so massive that it could effectively save the games industry. Well, long enough.
Why does the game industry need saving? Am I missing something here? Like, sure, there are some crap video games, but you just don't play them. You play the good ones, and there's plenty of good ones. I'm hoping this is a good
At least to be the one that kills it. I need you guys to stick with me on this. I can already see people telling me no in the comment section, likely shaking their head as they're watching this video. No game can sell that many copies. No game would be able to do this by itself. The normies. All the normies play GTA. All the gamers play GTA. The people that don't even play video games are going to play Grand Theft Auto. This game is just going to be absolutely massive when it launches. Everybody knows what it is. Everybody's heard about it. I mean, the game trailers have like 500 million views combined. That's crazy. Honestly, now thinking about it in hindsight, I cannot believe I did not see this already. I would not be surprised if part of the motivations behind these new generational console price increases that we've seen over the past couple of years, outside of failed live service bets.
Just buy PC. Then you don't have to worry about console prices. Problem solved.
A lot of money wasted and also some general global things going on. These guys are just trying to get ahead of Grand Theft Auto. What they're trying to do is that they can't justify jacking up the price just before the game comes out, but they can slowly inch it up as the game gets closer to release. And what they're going to do is that they're doing this all in confidence that they're going to make their money back and then some. And then once they capture all the people that are willing to show up day one and buy this kind of stuff, then they're going to drop the prices and pick up everybody else. It's absolutely rat behavior, but it's probably going to work. When you have something that is pulling this much attention, it's going to change the math for everybody else in the room. That's what I don't think people are fully recognizing on this. It's something that I actually do agree with these analysts on, at least partially. More people buying consoles means more people that are buying hardware, other hardware, accessories, headsets, controllers, people looking at other games, people buying into services and subscriptions and online play and all that stuff. And just by existing, it's going to make the entire games industry feel bigger and immediately, basically, is how that's going to end up working out. And the financials for all these companies are going to start looking healthier. The investors are going to start flowing back in. The investment money is going to start flowing. It's going to look like this industry is returning to normal. It's going to be a party. But the funny thing about parties is that parties stop. In the short term, it's going to look like everything's going back to normal, but then reality is going to kick in. And by kick in, I mean kick them in their face is what's going to end up happening. Just because you have a bunch of people that are starting to show up doesn't mean you still...
Hasn't that happened multiple times? Like, at some point, the game industry will learn how to make a good game again. Like a good AAA game. Like, I can't remember the last AAA game that I was excited, that I actually purchased and played. It's been a while. I tend to play indie games almost exclusively, outside of like a couple live service games, maybe. I still occasionally play League and Overwatch as live service games now. But AAA, I mean, like I'd honestly, I'd consider Expedition 33 a AAA game. It's been good.
Understand how to be able to hold on to them. And while this industry thinks that this game is basically their greatest dream come true, what they don't realize is that this game is really just their greatest nightmare. Earlier, I used that example of the Wii comparison for a very specific reason that I'm going to pay off on right now. The industry was only able to capitalize on that insane wave of spending in casual audiences because it actually was in a position to do something with it. The Xbox 360 had an absurd lineup. Online gaming had fully clicked into the console space. PlayStation was still riding off the momentum of the PS2. And honestly, this wasn't just a golden era for the industry. It was a golden era for the players too. Every single publisher was hitting at this time. The industry had trust. It had respect. The Wii was just the final spark that set everything off, but the industry was standing there waiting, ready, with something to offer. Fast forward to today, And we are living in a very different reality. Player trust is at rock bottom. Prices are at all-time highs. Games that actually feel transformative or even worth buying are in short supply, if they even exist at all. The industry is getting hammered with closures, cancellations, and layoffs, and half of these companies don't even know what kind of games they should be making, let alone what people actually want. So how exactly, why exactly do they think that anything...
That's always weird to me, because you wanted to design a good video game. It's so easy to make a game that people want to play. Find something that you love to play and iterate on it in a way of other games you love. Very simple for a gamer to make a good video game.
Good is going to be able to come from this. What do they think is going to happen when this game releases? How could they possibly have convinced themselves that this could end well, especially when we're already seeing the negative effects of GTA 6 and this game isn't even out yet? The AAA industry...
How are we seeing negative effects?
Is in one of the weakest positions that it has ever been in. It is stuck in this endless drought of creativity. They're terrified of losing their share price. They're trend chasing themselves into the ground in a constant fight for relevance, and they're already dancing to the beat of this game. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 6...
Why didn't the other person get off the back when you stole their jet ski?
6's last delay reportedly cost the games industry alone $2.7 billion. That's how much gravity this game already has. When GTA 6 moves, everybody else is flinching. They're shifting their release schedules, they're canceling their launch plans.
I mean, you don't want to release at the same time as GTA 6. You just don't want to do that.
Rushing development, shipping unfinished games. They're eating the lost sales and lost development, and that's before this game has even come out yet. It's only going to get worse from here. The industry had a lot of analysts that were hoping that Grand Theft Auto 6 was going to be that game that was going to finally push the base price of games up to $100. That was supposed to be the game to be able to get away.
Hey, is she finally bailing? Finally? After being part of a gunfight?
Play with it, but now it was... That was supposed to be the game to be able to get away with it, but now with Strauss Zelnick...
Oh, that's great.
saying that the game is going to land at either $70 or $80.
That distracted me. What was I saying? I actually think the price of video games is going to come down some, in my opinion. The fact is, I feel like gamers are becoming more price conscious than ever. And as I've said, I have numerous $20 and $30 video games that I want to get before any AAA game. If I'm weighing if I'm going to buy a game or not, I usually buy a $20 game, not a $70 game. And so all of a sudden you have these AAA studios, in my opinion, they're losing out to indie. Losing to indie.
Dollars.
Indie is going to win. And indie studios or small AA studios will become the new AAA.
That fantasy is dead. And even if the game does come out,
except for a couple exceptions. I think this might be one
at $80, effectively locking that price that Nintendo floated with Mario Kart World. Not a single one of these publishers are going to be able to live up to that expectation. We already covered it. Apillion said that new game adoption is at an all-time low. People are going to buy even less if you up the price. Grand Theft Auto 6 can get away with that because it's Grand Theft Auto 6. That name alone is going to do something that nothing else in the industry can, but the rest of these companies, not a chance. Not when so many of their games are shipping broken, run like garbage, fail to interest anybody outside of niche audiences, or just...
Look at how old that game is. Like, this is what, 2014, I think? For the ground graphics. For its time, it is great. But today, walking up that... Back a little. Walking up this hill, like, look, what is that? That's a terrible...
fail to interest anybody outside of niche audiences, or just flat out suck. And the part that I don't think a lot of these guys have really come to terms with yet is that, let's say that Grand Theft Auto 6 does launch at $80. Let's say it actually delivers. It is just an absolutely absurdly good game. Let's say it really is that next level game that people have been waiting for. Well, now that price is getting attached to that level of quality, that level of ambition, that level of payoff. And once that happens,
I mean, it Baldur's Gate 3 did that to me. It was such a good game. That is what I expect at that price point. I can't, unless you give me that kind of experience, I will not buy a game at that price point.
Every other $80 game is going to be compared to it, 1-to-1. And most of this industry is going to be crushed by that comparison. Yeah. Because if GTA 6 delivers, a lot of these players are going to be looking around asking what the hell the rest of the industry has been doing this entire time, and how any of these companies have even convinced themselves that their games are even worth $70. You know what? Realistically, what I think we're probably going to see is something closer to the old PS3 and Xbox 360 era, where certain hardware just became known for one thing. Halo was the dominant game that everybody was playing Xbox on, so they just started calling it the Halo machine. And when PlayStation was stuck in a drought, they didn't really have any first-party titles. One of the biggest talking points they had going for them was that it was the main device that people were using Netflix for. That's where I think this generation is heading right now. These consoles are just going to become Grand Theft Auto machines. Actually, NYU professor and industry analyst Joost van Duren already made a comment on this last year in an interview with IGN, saying that after the high comes the hangover. I realize many in the industry are looking forward to this undoubtedly pivotal moment. There's even a somewhat naive expectation that this one release will reverse the industry's current direction. It won't. Once Take-Two releases the game and players and investors...
Why does everyone say that the direction is bad in video? Like, there've definitely been terrible video games released. Marathon looks horrible. There is no way I will ever play Marathon. But when you look at the indie section of video games, like, it's never been doing so well, in my opinion. My wish list grows. It does not shrink, and every year it continues to grow.
Each enjoy their respective highs. I expect a period of sobriety to follow. In the absence of any similar releases in the near future, especially investors are likely to redeploy their capital elsewhere, thereby lowering the industry's overall valuation. I think this is the most accurate read on what is exactly going to happen once this game releases. Is it going to drive console sales? Yes. Is it going to drive service revenue for Xbox and PlayStation? Absolutely. Is it going to bring more people into gaming than we've seen in a really long time? Without a doubt. But those people are going to be here for Grand Theft Auto 6. They're not going to be here for everything else. And when you have an industry that really doesn't have anything else to offer that's going to come close, all this is really going to do is buy these guys a brief moment of relief before everything comes crashing back down to reality, even worse than it was before. Because not only are a lot of these new and returning players not going to stick around for whatever the rest of the industry is making, but a lot of the players that are already here playing their games are going to migrate to Grand Theft Auto 6 as well. Every single game, and I mean every single game, is going to feel this release in some way. Some of it's going to be small, some of it's going to be brutal, some of it's going to pass, but some of it, a lot of it probably, is going to be leaving some permanent damage. That's why so many of these publishers have already been doing everything they can to avoid launching anywhere near Grand Theft Auto 6. They already know that this game is going to have...
That is a smart decision.
A freezing effect that's going to last for weeks. But then the second wave is going to hit. Because it's not just the launch that they need to be worried about, it's also what's going to come after when Rockstar rolls out the next version of Grand Theft Auto Online, and this stops being about a single-player release and starts becoming an ecosystem. And I think this is going to wipe a lot of live service games off of the map. Not all of them, but honestly, probably a lot of them. And I think it's probably going to push a lot of these developers...
There are too many live service games. Like, live service became a profitable business. Everyone entered. Live service is no longer a profitable business unless you're one of the big ones. it became massively oversaturated because it was technically a better method at extracting value from the customer. But in the end, it's oversaturated. Unless you're Grand Theft Auto, you're not going to see a massive rise in like a live service release.
Even further away from any future live service plans that they may have still had, because if Grand Theft Auto 6 is still pulling 20 million active players every single month after 13 years, and Rockstar is now officially partnering with the people behind the modded GTA RP servers, while also giving players a full developer suite to make user-generated content like Fortnite and Roblox, with some insiders also claiming that it's going to make certain creators millionaires, then what are the rest of these companies planning to do with that? What are they supposed to do with that? How are they supposed to compete with that? How are they supposed to keep people away from it? Guys, if this game lands the way that people think it will, it's going to blot out the sun. So no, I don't think that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to save the games industry. I think it's going to expose just how weak, hollow, and unprepared these guys are for what's coming. The crazy thing is that this is only partially predicated on Grand Theft Auto 6 being that good. That's one of the points that I hope people understand here.
I mean, the name alone is going to draw insane attention and insane amount of people buying just the name.
These guys have lost talent just like everybody else. They've lost developers, some notable people, not as much as other developers or other studios that are out there, but I don't really see these guys fumbling the bag here. The funny thing is that it almost doesn't even matter. This game is so culturally oppressive. It has so much reach that people are still going to buy it anyway. They're still going to play it anyway. They're still going to find ways to enjoy it regardless of what the game is even like. And again, I don't think that's what's going to end up happening, personally. These guys have spent a lot of time, and they've literally spent billions of dollars making this game.
10
if
years,
they
billions
somehow
of
do
dollars.
not land it, then the next video I'll make is...
If you could spend that much and that much time, that much money, and not make a good game, you deserve the layoffs that are coming.
is how Take-Two goes out of business because the company will just crumble into dust. But, you know, the funny thing is, when you see a game like this that has this much imminent success, this industry is never going to learn any good lesson from it. All this is going to do is just vindicate these guys to spend even more.
I don't think the industry learned from Baldur's Gate 3. I think some indie developers have, and hopefully we'll see better games there, but I don't think the industry as a whole learned.
Or on making
Or
games.
anything.
They spent billions. We'll spend billions. They charged $80. We'll charge $80. But none of that's going to work. These guys are going to trend chase this game into their grave. That's what's going to end up happening without even realizing what they're chasing is a ghost. The only reason that Grand Theft Auto can charge this kind of price, the only reason why Grand Theft Auto can even find this level of success is because there is one Grand Theft Auto. There isn't a single game that has been able to sniff this game's boot. The closest that they ever had was Saints Row, and that wasn't even a blip on the radar. Now, that game's likely never even to exist ever again. This is simply a game you cannot follow. That's why most of the industry has never really tried that hard to follow it, and have really only just tried to adapt different features from it because that's all they could really realistically be able to achieve.
Red Dead Redemption 2, I feel, took a lot of aspect from the game, from this industry. Like from GTA in general, like how to world build, how to tie things together. I think there are a couple games that have done decent.
I cannot tell you
But none that have captured the lightning in a bottle that GTA.
Guys, how excited I am for this game's release. I've been waiting for this for, I can't tell you how long now, but ever since it got revealed, I've been so stoked.
I mean, I got much less excited as soon as I realized it wasn't coming out on PC. I'm not the kind of person that'll purchase a console to play one video game.
Not only because, I'll say first, the reason why I'm the most excited is because I just want to see what happens. But you guys know the kind of content I make. You guys know the kind of things that interest me. I am just so interested to see what happens when this game comes out, because it's going to be wild, and it's probably not going to be very good for a lot of people. But I'm also really excited to play it. I mean, I grew up on Grand Theft Auto. I've played every single one of the games. I've always enjoyed them, and I'm actually really interested in trying out GTA RP, especially if it's going to be something that's like fully integrated, since they're working with the guys that
That sounds
made
exciting.
the mod. I've never done it before. I've watched all the clips, and I feel like I'd probably have a lot of fun doing it. So I don't know. I'm interested. I'm interested to see what ends up happening. I'm also interested to see what the game turns out to be. What do you guys think? What do you guys think is going to happen? Do you think that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to save the games industry? Are you excited for its release? What do you think is going to happen? Anyway, thank you guys for watching.
The rise of alternative games, like games from China, is what'll save the game industry. Because as soon as you give gamers a choice, they will select the best option every time. They'll do. And the best option will outcompete the worst options. And then the people that make the worst options either adapt or go out of business. I've seen a lot of them go out of a business because they're not very good at adapting right now.
If you guys enjoyed the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, share the video with your friends, share it on social media, share it across the entire world. Follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
I always liked his videos. They bet everything on Grand Theft Auto 6. I have GTA 6 fatigue. hasn't even come out. I'm already fatigued with this game. Rockstar should shock the industry further by selling it at $60. Just make it a $60 game and just destroy the gaming industry, the AAA industry entirely. Just put it in the trash bin. The Titanic was an unsinkable ship. They act like this game is the second coming of Christ. Have you seen, like, some people, the amount of time they have put into GTA and like GTA Live is terrifying. They act like it is the second coming because to them it is the second. Given it's like telling me, oh, they're making WoW 2, it's 100 times better. I mean, that wouldn't be hard with the current state of WoW, but 100 times better than classic. I would be excited. Given the era GTA 6 has been developed, and I doubt it'll reach its ideal potential. I don't know, like, as soon as you get to the level where you can use AI to do graphics, and I think we're there. I think we will see this. When you're looking at the dirt, AI will have meticulously created the dirt, the graphics of the dirt, and that will reach a level that human game designers simply can't. You cannot pay a person to look at every rock, specifically craft every rock for its position. You can get an AI to do that, and then a human to come over and just look over the work. Like, okay, we need to redo this section because this graphic doesn't make sense. I feel we are close to that. And I mean, like, new games that are starting development will 100% have this. GTA has been in development for so long, and AI is new. I don't know if they'll have that, but I hope they do. That'll be cool. GTA 6 is either going to be the greatest hallmark success of the decade or the single biggest lesson history gets the entire history. I agree. All right. Well, I'm going to be getting off. Thank you for watching. Down there, legendary. All right. Thanks for your time. Hope you all have a good night. I'll probably be back on Monday.